Okay, ready? Here we go. Okay, that's enough. There are some groups out there that don't want to be messed with and are very protective, and Led Zeppelin's one of them, so that was less than 2 seconds. Hopefully I don't have a problem. Let's dance with the devil. A couple more steps. Okay, that's enough. That is quite a wallop of an opener, and it's the prelude to what's coming, which is a harmonic battle between Robert Plant and Jimmy Page off the third track, I believe, off the first album, You Shook Me. And on regular tune sets, oh, I'm sorry, this is a video for the AAW Ash. I believe AAW stands for Advanced Acoustic Works. This is a 8-driver, a single dynamic 13 millimeter, fairly large graphene with 7 balanced armatures. That's why we're here. Sorry, totally. I was focusing on Led Zeppelin. Some of the music I listened to: Tupac, Picture Me Rollin', Michael Jackson, Want to Be Starting Something. Yeah, I did. Aerosmith, No More, No More, a lot. Black Sabbath, of course. Sweet Leaf. Led Zeppelin, You Shook Me, right here. Pink Floyd, On the Run. Since You're Gone. Eurythmics, Sweet Dreams, didn't check it. Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page and Robert Plant battling. They're literally like, Jimmy Page is using his guitar in a vocal kind of sense, and they're like yelling at each other in a way. It's a lot of stuff going on in the harmonic range of the guitar and vocals, and it can become kind of intense. And I discovered that sets that are tuned like this, and like the Richo and Peacock Spring 1, and even more the Naga Audio Sirius, I kind of rediscovered Jimi Hendrix. Not rediscovered him, I got everything that he released and all the stuff that's not good quality, but they wanted to make money off his name, his estate. But I'm a huge fan, but a lot of the regular tuned, typical stuff with the slight bass and little dip and then the treble elevation, and that's not something that Led Zeppelin, You Shook Me, and then listen to the whole side of the album sounds, I just don't do it really. But I did start listening to Are You Experienced LP by Jimi Hendrix and also Led Zeppelin. Previously I was actually listening to Led Zeppelin 2 with the Naga Audio Series. Guitars and vocals are much more, especially like electric with a lot of distortion, which is a lot of rock and roll. It's much more enjoyable. I wrote down moving from fun V to fun monitor. I consider this to be monitor by the way it's tuned. The Empire's Legend X is going to be off of that, my left-right Titans. It's gone. When I did the comparison with the Legacy 9, I decided the Legacy 9 was better than that. And that thing costs $500 and something. If you got that, you got a baby Legend X with better mids. Its mids are not that strong point, but it's good, and it's certainly better than that. And so that's got to go maybe to my Patreons, maybe just out the door. And I'm on a hunt for what's the thing that's going to, the IER Z1R is going to hold down the right side, and in my left hand side it's going to be, I don't know. It's not going to be the AAW Ash, but just because I want to keep looking. But it is a very good set, and I like it a lot. Take a look at the graph real quick. You see this very flat board. From here to here that's my measurement rig. It has been for quite a while. It's a industry compliant coupler. This right here could maybe use a tweak, but everything beyond this is absolutely fine. You notice this, and you think, well, it looks weird. It's right at 6K, and I believe it was done intentionally. I've seen a couple other graphs, and they did it look maybe a little bit lighter. It depends on the smoothing. I don't know. But generally in mixing, and people that are in that can kind of confirm, there's a rule of thumb, and a rule of thumb is something that is basically means, I'm sure you know what it means. Doesn't mean it's not gospel, it's not etched in stone, but it's the safe, pretty much generally accepted rule in whatever you're talking about, a rule of thumb, whether it's something in carpentry or in audio. What they do is they say that boost wide, cut narrow. That's basically, you don't want to be boosting narrow and you don't want to be cutting wide. So they say generally when you're manipulating the replay, the frequency response, you want to boost kind of wide and you want to cut kind of narrow, because when you're cutting, you're trying to maybe remove something very specifically, and you sweep and find it and then try to cut that out because it's something in the mix or it's something that's related to the driver that's not performing quite the way that you want it to. So you're compensating basically by removing it, and so you specifically cut that out. A lot of people have sensitivity right in this range, and I think that they did this on purpose. A lot of other sets are wider, got a little cave down here. Would you notice this right here? I don't think so. It's a very, very, very small band, and most stuff kind of travels. It's certainly not giving abrupt end to cymbals or anything like that. Everything I listened to sounded very, very good. This was going to go into my A tier. It's a great set. But bass guitar has 4 strings, and 4 strings. It covers a fairly wide range. If you've got sub bass emphasized and not mid bass or the rest of the bass, you're elevating 1, 2, maybe 3 of the strings and not the 4th one. And you'll notice that if you play with a set like the EX1000 and you've ever played and tried to get a bassist to sound as optimal as you could, you might be making a couple adjustments. I would go with 55 hertz, just leave it be. But there was sometimes where I get creative and be listening to a bassist, like Taking It to the Streets by the Doobie Brothers, and I would realize that I'd be putting up the sub bass and then something a little later, like 125, and letting it fall, and then I would be getting that 4th bass string completely and accurately instead of what I was given to originally. Something like this tuning is presenting all 4 of the bass strings with equal emphasis, amplitude. So none is being taken away and nothing is being really added too much. And kick drum's the same. You won't get the impact of the kick drum and then a very abrupt loss, or the opposite where the kick drum doesn't sound really hard but it's got kind of an afterbloom because that's the way that the bass is tuned and the instrument that occupies that range. So tuning like this kind of allows you to really focus on the bassist or the vocalist and something like this, the extreme where Jim Page is just announcing himself at the beginning of the song, and it's just going to keep going like that, and then Robert Plant's going to get more and more and more until they're battling. On a regular tune set, that's not something I'd turn down the volume probably, but like I said, you're turning the whole thing down. So I don't need to do that with something like the Ash or the other sets that I mentioned. So for that reason, I wreck the set. If you exist in this price range or buy in it. But I think you can probably get the same type of replay for more affordable prices. Piano sounds great, like it does on sets that are tuned like this. Steven Tyler, all the vocals sound good. I remember saying Stevie Nicks sounds like Stevie Nicks, a little calmer. Robert Plant sounds totally alive with this. There's really no change in that. On the Run, Pink Floyd, there's elevation around 10K that gives it a good sense of space, and there's sounds, the virtual, it's in your head. Make note, but the psychoacoustic illusion of being something outside seems to be rather wide, actually. This playback, it seems quite spacious, actually. And again, Black Sabbath's Sweet Leaf, I find myself focusing on the drum, especially when you get into the drum and the bass solo. I'm just listening to him go across the kit and then get into a rhythm and then go across the kit, and that's stuff that I didn't do with V-shaped sets like the Empire Ears. I just didn't have it didn't play it back in that way for me. I wouldn't listen to this with the Empire Ears Legend X and then keep going through the whole side of the album. I wouldn't do that. Pink Floyd, maybe, because there's lots of stuff. They do a lot of stuff with the mixing decks and a lot of other sounds, non-instruments that are being used. Very creative. I'm listening for that stuff. So I enjoyed Pink Floyd, but Led Zeppelin is not a group, and Jimi Hendrix certainly not with the Empire Ears Legend X. So that type of a V with like 10 on both sides or more is something I'm kind of migrating away from. And if you're wanting a change of pace set, I would think that change of pace, different from regular, would be maybe something that's more stabilized across the frequency spectrum. Get an affordable version of that and see if you might like it, because it seems to make me feel quite comfortable. I mean, I really get into long listening sessions with stuff that's tuned like this. So I don't know this is really a proper AAW Ash, but I guess it is, because I'm talking about music that I love and that I listen to it and I don't listen to some of it like Hendrix and Led Zeppelin as much with IEMs, with what is typical tuning, more of an elevation and longer across the board until about 8K and then falling off. But just that 2, 3, 4, 5 being roughly the same elevation as, and maybe it's 8, 9, 10 dB above the 1K point. That's maybe a little bit much for me when it comes to relaxed listening. So I enjoy it. People say, oh, I hate that dude, he rambles too much. Another feather in my cap. I just rambled. Didn't talk much about what's right in front of me. Don't care, really. That's the FiO. I'm discovering that I'm not really a wireless person. It's not there yet, or I don't know. What's wrong with me? I use the Beats Pro with the ear hooks when I train, and besides that, I don't really go wireless. So I will say that the FiO app that goes with the like Bluetooth stuff is dope as hell. That's really cool. I enjoy playing with that, but I end up doing that more than I do listen to music. I'm a wired guy, not because of cocaine, because of like wires. Okay, so this is the AAW Ash. It's a really, really, really gorgeous set, and it plays music really, really well. My library right here. And again, if anybody Led Zeppelin and got pissed because I did that little. Oh, that's so loud. I got a DSD. I got a DSD of Led Zeppelin. I got DSDs of all of Led Zeppelin. So, if I get dinged for this, I'm gonna listen to that as soon as I turn this off. Love it. You guys have a good one. Stay safe, please. And I'm out.